How do you write dimensional characters? Are you getting feedback that your characters feel flat on the page, or that people want to know more about them, or people feel like they are Mary Sue characters who are just kind of always likable, always doing the right thing, always a saint, really kind of boring and just not multi-dimensional, fascinating, contradictory, and strange human like all of us are? Well, the way to get into making a character compelling is to think of it as this way. Have them in a scene where they have all the power or control, like maybe that's at their job, maybe that's around their family, maybe whatever it is, their strength, maybe they're giving a speech, maybe have that, and then have it when they're not in control or in their power. So maybe they get picked up by a cop, maybe they're in a therapy session, maybe they encounter an ex, so they get, that makes them feel powerless because, and seeing them in different situations where they're the one in control and then they're not is how you get a dimensional character. And the best example of this that's really, I always think of is in Bridesmaids. It's a comedy and it has Annie played by, I can't remember her name, but Kristen Wiig, yeah. So it has that Annie character. She's in the very first scene, she's in a situation with a guy that wants to keep it casual and she's pretending and going along with it. And that's funny. That shows her kind of out of her power. Then it shows her, or even maybe shows her uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not always power is the right word. Sometimes it's showing someone when they're in their most comfort, in their zone, and then it's showing somebody out of their comfort zone. So we have that scene, she's uncomfortable. We go to her best friend, she's very comfortable, but that suddenly her friend says, I'm getting married. And then we get into, she feels like this is my comfort zone and am I at risk for losing it? And then we have when she's at work way later on in the film, a 13-year-old girl comes in and there's like a little spat that's really humorous. And see, that 13-year-old actually has the power in that, because sometimes the adult has the power, but where Kristen Wiig is, that 13-year-old kind of has the power, and there's like a little scuffle, and that scuffle ultimately results in her losing her job because she allows herself to get petty with the 13-year-old. And then there's the scene where she gets picked up by the cop, but actually she has power in that scene because he is actually subtly attracted to her and laughing. So there's just all of these, you put it all together, you get a very dimensional character in Annie in Bridesmaids, because we see so many levels of when she feels like she has to be, when she's trying to almost get someone to do what she wants versus when she feels comfortable with them, or versus when they have the power or she has the power. Another scene, of course, is all the scenes between her and the new best friend of her best friend, who, when they're playing tennis, there's always a power struggle with that because that friend is a threat to her friend, and that's the whole premise of the show. But you see that's what really defines, that's the best demonstration, I think, of creating a dimensional character, because we see her, and another comfort zone thing to play with, which was brilliant in this film, was on the airplane that she fears flying. So we see a new side of her, and we see, she takes the scotch and the pill, and then she's acting goofy on the plane, paranoid. So we get to see so many different sides of her when she's and they're all they all really play into the comedy, because we see when she's comfortable, we see when she's not, we see when we just see her with so many different types of people to just really get a great sense of this character. We see her with her roommates, for instance, and then they're reading her diary, like they're in power there because she can't pay her rent. So we just get such a well-rounded. She's a woman that clearly has she feels confident in some situations, and then she's completely demolished in others, just like all of us are. We all have situations that will bring out different sides in us. We all have different people that bring out different sides of us. Like there are times when you are doing something that you are comfortable doing, but people are watching, so that makes you not be able to do it. Or there are times when, you could go up and be somebody that tells stand up on a stage, but then someone puts you on a horse and you're suddenly in fight or flight and you're terrified and people are making fun of you and then you're reacting to that. So, when you're nervous versus when you're just confident, when all of these are what make a dimensional character. And I think it's a great exercise to just think of how to do it. If you really want to establish the character development off the bat, just think of it as show a situation where they're the ones that are in power. And you think about this when you start to see it in movies, they do this quite effortlessly. They'll show when a woman might be they always do the trope of the woman that's so in control of her career, but then her love life is more chaotic. So they'll do that. They'll show really where somebody is in power, where they're powerless, where they're in power, powerless. And sometimes it's really the arc of the show is just the powerlessness building on each other in a variety of different ways. And then sometimes when people feel powerless, they deal with it by having a fake confidence or bravado. They deal with it by kind of pretending it's not impacting them. And then others and then sometimes that bravado it's leading them to then have to just admit that they are scared or something. So it just creates easy dimensional characterization. And if you have any more questions on character besides this, feel free to ask me. But I think this is one easy way of really getting into a character that you're getting notes on that is flat or doesn't feel, or as Mary Sue, put them in the situation where they're in power versus not. Therapy scenes always can be, because they can be either or. They could be in power where they might be lying versus telling the truth. Always a great way to build a character too. An exercise to build a character that also works is, what does somebody hide when someone is coming over? Like maybe their parents, maybe it's a date. What objects do they hide and what objects do they showcase? I always think that really gets into you already get a dimensional character based on what they're willing to reveal and what they're willing to conceal. So hope that was helpful.